ladies and gentlemen, that was a wild cowboy ride, wasn't it? I would like very much to address you in Spanish, but I don't do that until after 2 bottles of wine, and you have to wait till tonight. So I'll try to do it in English, because that's a common language. Leaving China, going to Sweden, is like going from this grand ballroom to the Taco Bell just around the corner. It's smaller, but it also shows that markets are very, very different. There is a similarity between Chile and Sweden. It's 2 very long countries, both narrow, and there's a lot of Chilenos living in both countries. And in fact, Estocolmo is the biggest Chilean city outside Chile. The headline of this seminar is Challenges and Opportunities, and I think that is something that you have to take into context when you go to Sweden. It is a monopoly-based market, and that gives you a lot of problem. When they say that it's the best market in the world if you're in, and the worst if you're out. But I would like to remind you of those 2 salespeople that went to the desert, say, trying to sell rubber shoes. And one immediately sent an email back home saying, "No one's wearing rubber boots, I'm coming home." And the other one said, "No one's wearing rubber boots, send me all you've got." And I think this is also what you can find on the Swedish market. This is my 5th trip to Chile. I was here in 1991 the first time, and I've seen all the changes, and I would very much like to say that this tasting here has shown that Chile is better than ever, and you have all the opportunities, but you need to meet the challenges. I would like to talk to you about the Swedish market. It's a difficult one, as I said, and first of all, in order for you to understand it, I would like to have a more historic background. I can hardly see here, so there it is. In 1919, by the end of the First World War, the wine consumption in Sweden was 50% sweet Madeira. So what were we drinking? We were drinking vodka. It was a country where people were drinking themselves to death, and like in many other countries, there was a lot of debate about this, and we had a referendum whether we should prohibit alcohol altogether, like they did in the United States. And this referendum came out almost 50-50, and it ended in a system, and that is the reason for the monopoly, where alcohol was rationed from 1919 till 1955. And in 1955, the wine consumption in Sweden was only 15 million liters, and 50% out of that was fortified wines. Now this has changed, but it took until 1977 until we were drinking more wine than spirits by volume. If you look back, let's say 10 years ago, the sales of wine through the monopoly, and I say the sales through the monopoly, but that doesn't cover everything we're drinking, because Swedes travel a lot, so we buy a lot of wine in Denmark, in Germany, and we also drink wine, of course, in restaurants. So the on-trade is not in here, this is just the off-trade. It was up to 150 million liters. And that means that the average consumption 10 years ago was 18 liters per capita in Sweden. And to put that into a more global perspective, UK at that time had 50 liters per capita, and Italy, a big consumer and a big producer, had 52. But in Stockholm at that time, 10 years ago, was 25 liters. Today, the average in Sweden is over 20 liters, and Stockholm, I would say, up to 30. In 2011, the sales of Systembolaget of wine was close to 200 million liters. What's even more important is that 70% of the population are wine drinkers, and 70% of the population, you know, that's a lot more than what you have here in Chile. It's also a lot more than you have in any other country in the world. More Swedes drink wine than in Italy, in Spain, and France. We don't drink a lot, but we do it with great pleasure, with great interest, and value is the key word. I have here a few figures from the Monopoly, where they did a survey on how people react to food and beverage in food and wine in pairing, and everyone thinks, or a lot of people think, this is very, very important. You can see here, it's in Swedish, of course, It's two surveys, one done in 2003 and the other in 2006. So grey would be 2003, green 2006. The first there is people who say that I am glad to read recipes in dailies and weeklies and monthly magazines and special magazines, 50%, 55% of the market. And there's a trend towards up on the next one, which is people say that I have a big interest in learning more about wine and how it should be compared, should be paired with food, 60%. 66%, same growth there, are people who say that in the during the weekends, I am glad, or I often spend times preparing, planning a dinner with wine and food, and I'm socializing with it together with my friends. The criteria for buying wine, this is both wine, spirits and beer, but looks at the top there for wine. It means that 58% of those in this survey says that price is the most important thing, 58%. But almost 50%, 48% of the people say that it needs to fit a special dish. So that's the opposite of Asia, isn't it? And 43, they look at the information in the shop. 35% say they go for a personal recommendation, and 34 are looking for a special grape variety. You can also see that the second one, the food pairing, is increasing. The information in the shop, that's a new one, and the personal recommendation is down. Grape variety is also something that has come up recently in Sweden. At the bottom you can see a very, very important figure, at least on my behalf. It means that 26%, more than 1/4 of the total market, claim that it is extremely important with the reviews in a newspaper or a magazine when they are choosing their wines. And I can tell you from the daily that I'm writing for, Dagens Nyheter, which is the biggest morning paper in Sweden, 78% of the readers, which is a very, very high figure if you compare it to media overall, 78% of the people read my column every week, and that's 10% of the market. So wine writers are more important in Sweden than I would say in any other country. And with the monopoly, it also makes wine writing very, very easy because, at least in theory, everyone can read and buy exactly the wines I'm talking about. The vintage, the price, it's there, and they can have it ordered to their shop around the corner, that little Taco Bell, if you say so.